Welcome to another episode of The Key Lies Within. Yay! Here I share the inner workings of thoughts and experiences I have or am going through as a form of therapy and a creative outlet for self, as well as discovering those conscious and unconscious happenings in an effort to create awareness.
Are you ready? Are you ready?
So today's episode is all about mass representation, when it's appropriate, when it's not, and that it is frankly not created equally. So I had an aha moment. Why is it that adults can be bad and not get no repercussions? Adults can be liars, they can be cheaters, they can be deceptive, they can be all the things you teach your children not to be, yet they won't lose any friends or have any big reprimand around it. It just gets written off as, oh, that's just them. That's the type of person that they are. They can fabricate lies about people for entertainment purposes. They can be deceptive in how they move among their peers and different people. And people will still entertain them, will still give them business, will still give them a platform, still follow them blindly, and still hold them up to certain standards. But these are the same standards that you tell your children that this is a big no-no. And some people, may even tell their children, like, this is not the type of people you want to be around. Yet somebody mama didn't tell them. So the purpose for today's podcast episode is because there's been so many discussions about representation, who gets to represent people either fictionally, non-fictionally. So I am here to explain my rules for what I think representation should look like fictionally and non-fictionally. What is representation? What is it? It's simply someone or something being portrayed, either fictionally or non-fictionally. So it can be a recreation of an event, a person's life, or it could be totally fictional. It could be something that an ideal someone thought of that, may not have particularly happened, but they wanted the story out there. So they wanted to represent their ideal in that fashion. So then we get to the question, who determines representation? So in my opinion, representation all comes down to the ideal of what I think the American dream is. So for me, the American dream is the ideal that it can only be one. I got here by myself, kind of like a dominant, get to the end. There's no partnership, there's no nothing that resembles anything other than it's me alone, and I'm gonna get this. So with that tone, you kind of have the ideal of only one person being a representative of a certain cause, a certain brand, a certain ideal, a certain way of life. So like, for instance, Tabitha Brown, pretty much she is, the ultimate representation of living a vegan lifestyle. And, she is everywhere. And not to say that there aren't other people that live vegan lifestyles that don't have a platform, but right now she is, quote unquote, the poster kid for it. When you think about vegan and vegan lifestyle, almost anybody would think about her right now in this day and age. So, it creates this ideal of one person being thought of or one person being pushed as the representation for a particular thing, versus it being like cohesive, like, all of us do this, while all of us can't have this kind of platform. So it's almost like, classic American dream, like the bottom of the barrel ideal. Like, I can't help you up. I gotta get, I gotta get it for myself kind of mentality. So then you have the ideal of then who gets to be the representatives? Who gets to choose the representatives? So, like, for me, I feel like no one can represent me that have not or has no relation to what I'm doing professionally, how I feel in those spaces, how I feel personally, what I go through mentally, my upbringing that don't have any that that doesn't relate to anything that I've been through. There's not if someone doesn't look like me, they may not always be the best fit representation wise. Just because you're a woman doesn't mean that you're the best representation for me. So, like, representation is, it could be more than one representative. I feel like there can be people that represent what you want to be, what you don't want to be. So it's not always black and white. It's a lot of gray in there. And so this brings me to a couple of things that have been, I would say, hot topics, but it's been all around representation. So number one that has been the talk of all talk is the new Ariel. So Disney is doing a live action movie, which is filmed already, where Ariel is no longer a white girl. She's a black girl, and she's played by Haley Bailey. Haley Bailey, yeah, I said it right. I don't know. It's because Halle Berry rolls off the tongue more because, she's more of a household name at this point. And she is a part of a singing duo with her sister Chloe. And, they also acted in a TV show called Grownish. Yeah. So, so since the announcement of her being chosen for Ariel, there has been a lot of outrage and hate towards this movie being remade with the black woman. And so my issue is what is really the problem? What is the problem you have with this black woman being the representative of Ariel? White people get to be the representatives of everything, but they are not the only people that live in this country. Everybody who lives here should have something as a representation. And Disney being such a big brand, you don't just have little white girls and little white boys watching your television shows. So you should that's common sense. You should make content to reflect your viewers. And it's not right that they get to dominate everything and people are supposed to just be quiet and take it and watch the 50th movie of the year, and you see nobody who look like you. And just thinking about my parents, they're about to be their 60s, and thinking about their nostalgia and what they seen on TV had no representation of them at all. The television shows that they watch, they had no relation to those people. They didn't see people who looked like them. For the most part, when they started going to school, they had started to go into more newly integrated schools. And how is it fair that they get everything? But you're not the only people in this world. Everybody should be able to be seen. It's not like you're not gonna take our money. You're gonna take our money. You're not gonna say, oh no, you don't have no representation in this movie. Don't come see it. No, you're gonna take it. So then now, we in a position where people are, they have no choice because people are speaking up. They have no choice. You gotta include us now. You know what I'm saying? Now they want to make rights wrong, and now you include us. Because, our culture is always taken and used and monetized, but you hate the people. That don't make any sense. How can you love everything black culture, but you don't like the contributors, the creators of it? So, you know, what is it? What is it? You know? And that's how a lot of things, that's how a lot of things are off when the people who have it all, when they don't have it, when they don't have what they want, they throw fits. But if anybody else throw fits, they're labeled as everything but good, everything but godly. And it's just insane. But that is a big case where representation, Ariel could have been anybody, because it's not just little white girls watching Ariel. And hell, it's not just little white boys watching Ariel. I don't remember. I think I may have seen it once or something like that. But even, with time, kids are becoming more conscious of, like, wait, I don't see, mommy, I don't see anybody who looked like me. When I was younger, that wasn't like the 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 it wasn't like the across the board conversation. But I do remember, as a, you know being young, my mom was very intentional. If I had a Barbie doll or a baby doll, that baby doll had the same skin color as me, you know what I'm saying? So it was never like I didn't know who I was or didn't value who I was. But it's not fair for people. It's just not right. Right is right. And who else they would have got to play Ariel? Someone who had the vocal ability, someone who had the acting ability. Granted, there are a lot of people who do have that ability, but I can't think of no younger, no. I can't. And sometimes it's hard to unsee it once you see somebody do it really, really well. Who else could have did that? Who else could have did it? You know what I'm saying? And kind of brought angelic, you know, that angelic feeling to it, like she did watching a trailer. And, it was just beautiful seeing the kids react to watching it. It's like, come on, you got everything already. What's the issue? Well, you got everything. And, we just supposed to be resilient people and just take it on the shoulder, huh? We just supposed to just take it and not say anything, and just go with, oh, this is how it's been, this is how it's going to always be. No. It's time for you to be upset too, just like we have been upset for eons and things like that. But I got some other representations to cover. So that's that one. So next representation is a big no-no. Why is it that James Franco is portraying Fidel Castro? Fidel Castro is a Cuban man. I feel like it should have been a Cuban actor to portray him. Even someone like, because in most cases, not only would he have been a representer for that particular ethnicity, he could have really gotten into it more. Because, a lot of people who's from other countries, they are well aware of their, their history. So I think a Cuban actor would have been more appropriate, because you're not portraying a fictional character at this point, unless James Franco is Cuban, and I don't know, you know what I'm saying? But even so, he don't look like Fidel Castro. So in those cases, you want to get that depiction right. Somebody that when people see that and they feel like they're getting an accurate depiction. Because even though some movies, It's based on a true story because some of the moments they, have to recreate it based on the emotion of what happened in that moment. But, so it's not going to be 100% all the time, but at least get the stuff you can control, right? At least go find you a Cuban. I know there's Cuban actors. And I'm sure there's some that, if they don't resemble him, they at least have some features because, some cultures are known for certain features. And that's just the thing because they have certain features based on where they have historically lived. So they could have did a better job, but that is a representation. Get somebody who looked like the real person to do the portrayal. Simple as that. So, and my next thing is trans women being the representatives for cis women. I don't see, it just complicates things. It's like, see, I don't have any discrimination towards anybody. But when you start discriminating against me as a woman, and now I'm getting treated as less of a woman because now a man wants to be a woman, a white man most particularly, that don't sit well with me. And then media pushing that as a representation of me, that's not a representation of me because even though, they do take hormones and there are converting, it's genetic things that them hormones will never undo. That's just simple as that. And it's not fair for people to be bullied for thinking otherwise. I don't hate anybody. That's your life. But you cannot speak for me. That's just as simple. That's your life. That's your choice. You made that choice. I can't speak for you either. I do not know what it means to be a trans woman. I don't know. I don't know. I can speak for myself. I don't even speak for other women. So how can you now be my representation? You don't have the ability to do any of the things I can do naturally. So I can't look to you for childbearing advice. I can't look for you for any advice about how to control my cycle symptoms. I even can't come to you in a traditional relationship because even if you are with a man, that relationship will never be transactional like mine is because mine can produce a child naturally. You know what I'm saying? So, I don't have no issue with nobody because they ain't none of my business. I just know someone can't represent me that I don't see them as a representative because they don't even represent a part of what happens with me. You know what I'm saying? Because there is that genetic male part that is like genetic predisposition that the hormones and science just can't undo. And, I feel that will always create a bias because a lot of the mindset things is kind of like behavioral in a sense because I don't know. I don't want to touch on this subject, but I do want to say that can't you can't represent me because then it's whatever. But it's just so weird of all the titles. It makes everything so confusing. Like, oh my gosh. So now I'm a cis woman. I don't know. It don't sound right. I'm a woman and I choose my representation, and my representation does not look like somebody who can't represent a part of me at least, or I can't look to for a part because I don't even know how to. I don't even know how that goes because it's just like things that's just innately in a woman, intuition, different things that I don't think taking estrogen would automatically instill with you. For the most part, the estrogen is just giving you the ability to grow breasts, not grow facial hair, to start appearing as a woman. But that don't necessarily turn a light switch on for you to be relatable to me as a woman, you know what I'm saying? So it's just such a weird time with all that, because now trans people and gay people have taken on the same like bully mentality that they have complained about from heterosexuals. It's the same mentality. You shun anybody for speaking anything, even when a lot of those people don't have any malice thing to say, is automatically deemed as a phobia when people express their opinions about things. And it's the same thing. It's the same thing that happened before, you know, gay people can be open. It's the same behavior. So what is really changing? It's nothing is really changing. People should be able to speak on their opinion. You know, I say it's not right for you to have bully mentality and make people fearful for who they are. But people should be able to express how they're feeling if it's not in a malicious way that would be to your detriment. You know, everybody can have an opinion. You know, this is supposed to be the country where you can say how you feel and feel how you say. You know, but you know, social media and everything is just so horrible, because it's not a discernment as to what is bad and what is good as far as your opinion. You know, sometimes when you just speak about it, just makes it like it's so taboo for you to even say anything about it. But you know, why can't I say anything about it? And I know I ain't perfect. People say things about me all the time. It don't bother me. It People are gonna always find something about you. It don't really matter what you are. So as long as nobody harms me or does anything malicious towards me, they can have their opinion. Their opinion is fine. And then opinions, you know, brings on different conversations and different understandings. But anywho, next representation point. So Shein decided to come out with an Afro bun. So basically it's a donut. So, you know, been doing donuts for forever. You know, you make the donut out of your sock, put a stocking over it, and then, you know, you comb your hair up in a ponytail, and then you feed your hair through the middle of the bun, and then you lay it on top of it. That's been a hairstyle for as long as I can remember, as long as I've been younger, you know, and probably before. But Shein decides to come out with a Afro bun, right? And they decide to make a white woman the model. I'm like, so, and then you look at it, it looks crazy because the way they did it, the colors, the hair texture, it just didn't work. And they could have just found the black woman. They have black models for the clothes. You could have just found one of them black women and hired them to display your bun. And that is representation done wrong, because now it becomes like cultural appropriation. Now you kind of taking something that's been synonymous with a type of people and having a representation from a total different culture, and it looks crazy because that's not the norm with that. Afros have always been synonymous with black people. Who else wear afros naturally? Who else have the ability to wear a natural afro? Exactly. So, like with these brands and them just doing anything, like Walmart with the ice cream and kind of biting the ideal from a black owned ice cream company and the whole Juneteenth ice cream, they trying to get the black dollar because they know the black people are the biggest consumers. But they do it in the wrong way. They do it in a way where it's just blatant, like, we just doing this because, you know, they gonna buy it anyway. Versus actually at least faking like you care and doing it right. At least having people in a room who look like those people and can give you honest feedback. Like Target has done it right with representation and black products in their store. They have done it right. They have done it in a way where it's representation and it feels like those people are true partners with Target and they really want those products to get out to the world. They did it right. But another on appropriation, and this time is cultural appropriation. I've seen, I'm not gonna lie, I've seen white women with buns. Not bun, yeah, with buns or the little donuts in their head, but not no Afro bun. Not not what they was portraying. And now I'm thinking about it, it was not a donut. Now that I think about it, it was like one of those spiky hair ponytails. I remember when those used to be popular, because I think it has strings in it, and then you just adjust it to your ponytail. That's what it was. It wasn't a donut. It was one of the spiky ponytails, and it was a fail. It was a fail, Shein, and that's the type of representation that's a no-no because it's not accurate. If it's something real, if it's something linked to a culture or a portrayal of a person, you got to get that right because that's not right. You have, when there's different representation, there is a special care that you have to take because those people aren't represented every day. They are the majority in representation. So the representation that's at least there is at least get that right. Since you don't want to put people in movies and have them portrayal as fictional characters, since that's just a big issue, at least get the stuff that's linked to them right. You know what I'm saying? Next thing. So the representation of braids and different braided hairstyles, the Kardashians being coined as the originators of it. How they originated? How did they originated ancient old braiding hairstyles that were created to hide food in there during passage and travel? How can they be the originators of things that have existed for longer than they could have been thought of? Give people their props. Stop taking people's stuff. You got enough stuff. Dang. You got everything and people can't have what's theirs. It's really irritating. It's really irritating. You get to have your representation. You get to paint you get to push what gets portrayed even in schools about representation. You get to push the whole story not being told about American history. You get everything. Dang. Get other people something. Give us something. At least the stuff that's ours. But no, you just, just let the people take our stuff. You just give them credit for stuff that's been around. Crazy. So back to representation. If it's fictional, it's fine. Everybody should be able to see that fictional character as them or portrayed. It's fictional. It's imaginative. If you have a diverse audience, you owe it to that audience to not just depict one portion of that audience that is technically the minority compared to everybody else. It's not right. But if you made your art for one particular people, well, you release it to all those people and don't take nobody else's money then. That's how I feel, right? But as far as what I like to see in representation, or I feel what represents one person is seeing someone that can walk a mile in their shoes. So for me, seeing someone that has walked a mile in the shoes of womanhood and what those characteristics of I like to be instilled in me or enhanced or kept in me, you know, because every characteristic that a woman exudes is not always right for every woman, right? So every woman can't be a representation for me or the next woman. You know, it's different things that you choose representation from different women, or some women no. So a woman that has walked in the shoes of a wife or a partner or a mother, those are women that I will look to for representation to see, hey, is this woman exhibiting, the ideal mother that I like to be? Can I take something from this person and apply it to my own family? Being a career woman, is this career woman a representation of me, or is she everything I don't want to be? That's my representation. Just because if I was a doctor, that doesn't mean there's a poster child for female doctors that represents all of us. And just like being a daughter, every daughter is not a representation of what I want to be as a daughter. But I could use the ones who do represent values I want to have as a daughter, a sister, a auntie, a cousin, a niece, a little sister. I could take that representation and choose to have that person represent that portion, and then I could use the other as no-nos, But every person, just because they may be the same sex, gender, or they may appear to be the same, is not equal representation, because everyone can't represent everyone, because everyone is not the same. Everyone is so vast in their beliefs, what their boundaries are, what make them tick, what kind of people they want around them. Everybody's so different, even in the same family. Nobody in one household, one family is the same, and it's not fair to make people have to feel like this is the one person that I can relate to in media, because this is the only person that you're giving a platform to, because of this whole idea that it can only be one. It can only be one representation of this type of person in this type of way per generation. No. You should see as many as you can. You should be aware of who all is doing it. And then you get to choose your representation. So that is my conclusion. That is my conclusion. Representation can be fictional or non-fictional. But when it's non-fictional, when it is true, when it is a real depiction or portrayal, you got to get that right. You got to respect people's cultures. You got to give people credit where it is actually due, and not give a false sense of entitlement for things that you had nothing to do with it. Things that are stolen ideals. Things that social media is just such a tricky place, because it gives people validation where they don't deserve it. And you have to be aware of where you get your representation for, because, like Kiki Palmer made a great example. It was some confusion about, it wasn't confusion. She had made an example about Kylie Jenner, and about role models and representation. And of course, social media blew it out of proportion. But she made a valid point after, saying that your role models should not be people you don't even know, because all you see is the good side of what's happening. You don't know how that person behaves, how that person lived their daily life, because you may not want them to be your role model once you find out. It should be people that you see yourself in and you can actually see them progressing. That was a very good point. You know, your representation should be somebody where you feel like you have seen them exhibit those habits and traits that you like. It shouldn't be based on an aesthetic, and you get to choose it, you know? And so that's why it's always important to advocate for yourself and advocate for you to see you in everywhere, any and everywhere, and be appropriate. And don't be out here misappropriating people cultures and misrepresenting people, real people. When you decide to do these portrayals or even voice your opinion about things, just be accurate, because you will want somebody to do you justice. If you was in those positions for a representation, you will always want your kid to see themselves in a fictional character, you know, if that's what's important to you. You will want the same for other people. So stop being selfish and do representation correctly. When mass representation is appropriate, you allow for the different stories to be created. You know, don't be so black and white, because the world isn't black and white. Is everything. Everything you could think of is so different and so diverse. And like they always say, media with these futuristic movies and how the world is going to end. And so, you know, film is also always supposed to be a representation of what's going on. So the what's going on is diversity. And if you live in a city, you see so many different people, and it's not right to not have a true depiction of that and what you see every day on your television screen, down to who you see as the people telling you about your news every day, who you see in a position of sporting commentators and sports players, coaches, you name it, politicians, everything that they can be a representation for. You should see everybody in it, because it's somebody. There's the diversity in the interest is always there. There's always going to be someone of every walk of life, every culture, that like to do said thing. You have to give those people opportunities to be chosen, to, you know, show you that a lot of people have more commonality than you think. So it's important for representation to advocate for it, to not be bullied when you want to see yourself. And then, you know, be fair and not have everything and still want it. Not have everything. I ain't gonna get into that, but I'm not gonna get further into that. But representation is so important, and it's important to have someone representing you that could walk a mile in your shoes, meaning that they exhibit some relatability to you and your life, your upbringing, your educational system, you know, anything. Thanks for tuning in to today's episode. Like always, you can reach me at tklwpodcast@gmail.com if you want to discuss today's episode. Something came up for you with today's episode that you want to give insight about or receive insight about, or if you're listening through Anchor, you can send me a voice message. And if you're listening to Apple Podcasts, you can leave a review so that other people have access in the algorithm to um, this podcast and can benefit from this podcast. Always, I thank you for your support and have a blessed day. This is a test. This is a test. Eh, 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 eh.